You wrote me out of your story, so I burned the script.
I'm 35, an architect in Portland. Been married 8 years to my wife, Emma, who works in marketing for this luxury skincare company called Lumina Beauty. She'd just gotten promoted to VP about 6 months before everything went down. It started on a Tuesday morning at 6:30 a.m. I was sitting at our kitchen table eating cornflakes when I opened my email and saw something from Emma. Subject line, regarding guest list. Which immediately felt weird because we don't email each other. We live together, we share a bed. If she needs to tell me something, she just talks to me like a normal person. But I opened it anyway. The email was written in full corporate speak like she was addressing a board meeting. It said that after careful consideration and consultation with the executive team at Lumina Beauty, they'd decided this year's annual gala required a refined guest list that reflects the brand's evolving identity. To maintain the integrity of their corporate image and ensure the event's success with key investors and stakeholders, they'd made the difficult decision to limit attendance to essential personnel and their strategically aligned partners. I had to read it 3 times before my brain translated it from corporate BS to plain English. Basically, my own wife was telling me I wasn't invited to her company party because I'm bad for her image. The email went on to say that my support has been invaluable to her career journey, and she hopes I understand that this decision reflects the demands of her position rather than any personal sentiment. Translation? Thanks for being my emotional support husband while I climbed the ladder, but now I need you to stay home. Then came the real gut punch. She mentioned that her parents, Richard and Margaret Henderson, had expressed their agreement with this decision and felt that the event is designed for established professionals in the beauty and wellness industry. She even included her mother's condescending "dear" in quotes, which wasn't a direct quote but a weapon. Let me give you some background. Emma and I met 7 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was wearing this yellow sundress and I was wearing cargo shorts from college. I made some joke about the host's burnt hamburgers, and she laughed this amazing laugh. I was completely hooked. We dated for a year and got married pretty quickly. For the first few years, it was great. I supported her career completely. I paid her rent for 18 months while she was finding herself in a studio apartment, eating ramen, and attending vision board workshops. I held her when she cried about feeling like she'd never amount to anything and told her she was brilliant and capable and destined for greatness. Apparently, greatness meant finding me unfit for hors d'oeuvres. As her career took off, things changed. She was promoted to marketing manager, then senior marketing manager, then director, then finally VP. With each promotion, I watched her transform into someone I barely recognized. She started speaking in mission statements, worrying about optics, couldn't just be present without strategizing. The version of Emma that existed just for me, the one who wore my old sweatshirts and laughed at dumb jokes and admitted when she was scared, appeared less and less. Family dinners with the Hendersons became my education in what I'd signed up for. These weren't normal family dinners. These were productions. Margaret set the table like she was expecting a magazine photo shoot. Cloth napkins folded into swans, wine glasses that cost more than my first car, place cards with everyone's names in calligraphy. Richard sat at the head of the table and held court about market fluctuations and emerging sectors while the rest of us nodded along, pretending we understood. At these dinners, Richard would turn to Emma and say something like, "Your presentation to the leadership team was masterful, sweetheart. You've got real executive presence." And Margaret would beam like her daughter had won a Nobel Prize. Then Richard would turn to me and say, "And Michael, how's the building thing going?" Like architecture was a hobby I did between naps. I'd mentioned finishing a 12-story mixed-use development downtown with sustainable materials and a rooftop garden, and he'd say, "Very nice," and immediately turn back to Emma to ask about her rebranding initiative. I was the opening act nobody wanted but tolerated. Margaret wasn't much better. She had this way of looking at me like I was a rescue dog Emma had adopted out of pity. When I'd crack jokes at dinner trying to lighten the mood because everyone was so serious, she'd blink at me slowly like humor was a disease she was trying not to catch. Once she told a friend at a dinner party, "Michael makes jokes," and I couldn't tell if she was explaining or warning, but despite all this, I loved Emma, really loved her. She was ambitious and driven, but she was also funny and smart and could parallel park in impossible spaces. And underneath the corporate polish, there was still that version of Emma. The one who'd wake me up at 2 a.m. with ideas for weekend road trips, or dance in the kitchen making scrambled eggs, or fall asleep during movies with her head on my shoulder. That Emma appeared less and less as her career accelerated. So back to the email. I sat there while my cornflakes turned to paste, trying to process that my wife had uninvited me from her work party. I'm a licensed architect. I designed a 12-story office building that won a regional design award. I've renovated historic homes that got featured in Portland Monthly, but apparently that pales in comparison to selling youth serum with marine collagen. My buddy Jake texted asking about lunch. I told him I just got uninvited to my wife's work party because I'm bad for her brand image. He responded, "What the actual F? That's not even a real thing you can do to your spouse." And honestly, I thought the same thing. Instead of calling Emma to fight or showing up at her office to cause a scene, I did something radical. I opened my laptop and searched for Airbnbs at the coast. Found a small cottage in Cascade Bay perched on a cliff with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific, a hot tub on the deck, and a kitchen where I could make my own waffles. The listing said romantic getaway and perfect for couples, which felt ironic, but it also had 5-star reviews and a host named Tom who looked like he'd never sent anyone a passive-aggressive email in his life. I booked it for a week using our joint credit card, the same card that would be charged for Emma's precious gala, and felt a sense of control I hadn't felt in months. That's when I decided to check our credit card statement. There it was, a charge from Elite Catering and Events for $8,473. $8,000 for food I wasn't allowed to eat. The charge was dated 2 days ago, which meant Emma had booked the caterer right around the time she was drafting that email uninviting me. Let me break down what $8,000 buys in catering. That's approximately 200 people eating things described as pan-seared and truffle-infused with delicate notes of pretension. That's appetizers with names I can't pronounce. That's my money, our money, funding a party specifically designed to exclude me. I scrolled down and found more charges. $1,500 to urban chic event styling. Someone got paid to arrange flowers expensively. $600 to premier valet services because apparently Emma's coworkers can't park their own cars. Another $1,200 to Vineyard Select Wine Company for premium boutique selections for discerning palates. I was funding an event that had literally itemized me out of existence. I called Emma before I could stop myself. She answered on the third ring, and I could hear that performative brightness that meant she was near people who mattered. "Hey, babe, what's up? I'm actually heading into a conference call," I interrupted. "I'm looking at our credit card statement. Specifically, I'm looking at $8,000 worth of catering charges for a party I'm not invited to." Silence. Not the good kind where someone's thinking about how to apologize, but the calculating kind where someone's figuring out their PR strategy. "Michael, I was going to talk to you about that." "Were you really? Because the email you sent made it sound pretty final." I heard her exhale. That specific exhale that meant I was being difficult and she was being patient. "Can we talk about this later? I really do have a meeting." "No, Emma, we can't talk about this later because apparently later never comes. Later is when you send me emails instead of having conversations. Later is when I find out about major decisions by checking bank statements." I heard a door close on her end and her voice dropped the performance. "Fine. Yes, I used our card for the catering. It's for my company event and we'll get reimbursed for part of it through my professional development budget. I didn't think I needed permission to spend money on something for my career." "I don't care about the money, Emma. I care that I'm literally paying for a party I'm banned from." "Do you not see how messed up that is? You're not banned, Michael. You're just sitting this one out. It's one event, one night. One night that apparently defines your entire professional identity. One night that I'm not good enough to be part of." "That's not fair." "You're right. What's not fair is being married to someone who thinks I'm great one-on-one, but an embarrassment in public. What's not fair is being with someone for 7 years and suddenly finding out I don't meet the brand standards." She went quiet. When she spoke again, her voice was tight. "Michael, you're great one-on-one, but this event is full of people who read Forbes for fun, investors, board members, industry leaders. These aren't regular people. They're the kind of people who can make or break careers with one conversation. I also read Forbes, mostly for the pictures, but I read it." I could hear her trying not to sigh. "See, that's exactly what I mean. You make jokes, you're funny and casual and relaxed, and that's great for normal life. But this isn't normal life. This is business, high-stakes business. So I'm too normal for your abnormal life. Got it. You're twisting my words." "No, Emma, I'm translating them. You're saying I'm not polished enough, not impressive enough, not whatever enough to stand next to you while you network with people who measure their worth in stock options and LinkedIn endorsements." She had to go. Someone was calling her name. We agreed to talk that night, but I knew how that would go. She'd deploy her corporate communication skills and try to make this sound reasonable. After we hung up, I sat there staring at the credit card statement. That's when I realized the party wasn't just about investors or image. It was Emma's rebranding ceremony. She was debuting a new version of herself, and that version didn't include a husband who makes jokes at inappropriate times. So I did something probably stupid. I called Margaret. I know. Calling your in-laws when your marriage is imploding is like calling the fire department when your house is burning and expecting them to show up with marshmallows. But some delusional part of my brain thought maybe they'd hear my side. Margaret answered on the second ring with that perfectly modulated voice. Michael, what a pleasant surprise. How are you, dear? There it was. That dear that sounded like a condiment she was spreading thinly over her actual thoughts. Hey, Margaret, I wanted to talk about Emma's gala. I got an email saying I'm not invited to an event I'm apparently paying for. Silence. Not shocked silence, but the kind you get when someone's figuring out how to tell you something they thought you already knew. Oh, sweetheart, Margaret finally said. Emma mentioned she'd spoken with you about that. She's under tremendous pressure right now. This event could really determine the trajectory of her career. I get that, but she didn't speak with me about it. She sent me an email uninviting me, and then I found out I'm paying for it. Well, you're married, dear, so technically you're both paying for it. That's how marriage works. Shared finances, shared responsibilities. I physically stopped myself from throwing my phone. Shared responsibilities, except I don't get to share in the actual event because I'm bad for her image. Margaret made this little tisking sound. Michael, you have to understand, Emma is in a very delicate position right now. She's the youngest VP in Lumina's history. There are people watching her, judging her, waiting for her to slip up. She needs to present a very specific image. And I'm not part of that image. It's not that you're not part of it, sweetheart. It's just that this particular event requires a certain polish, a certain level of professional sophistication. I'm a licensed architect, Margaret. I literally design buildings. How much more professional do I need to be? Another pause. I heard ice clinking in a glass, which meant she was fortifying herself. Architecture is a wonderful profession. Very respectable. But it's not quite the same as being in the beauty industry at the executive level. These are people who live and breathe brand identity. They understand optics in a way most people simply don't. So, because I don't sell overpriced face cream, I'm not sophisticated enough to eat fancy appetizers? Now you're being dramatic, dear. No, Margaret, I'm being uninvited. There's a difference. She sighed. Michael, I'm going to be honest because I care about you and Emma. Sometimes in marriage, we have to make small sacrifices for our partner's success. This is one of those times. It's one evening. Surely you can understand that Emma needs to shine without... She paused, searching for the right word. Without distractions. Distractions. I'm a distraction. That's not what I meant. No, that's exactly what you meant. I'm not polished enough, not sophisticated enough, not whatever enough to stand in the same room as Emma. You're getting upset, and I don't think that's productive. Perhaps we should discuss this another time when you've had a chance to calm down. I am calm. I'm just trying to understand how my own in-laws think it's reasonable for me to be excluded from my wife's work event. It's not about exclusion, sweetheart. It's about understanding priorities. Emma's career is at a critical juncture. Surely you can put your own feelings aside for one night to support her. By not being there? By not making her uncomfortable. Michael, I say this with love. You're very casual. You make jokes at inappropriate times. You wear those cargo shorts. I wore cargo shorts one time 3 years ago. And you just have a very different energy than what Emma needs to project right now. This isn't personal, dear. It's simply practical. I sat there staring at my architecture degree on the wall, wondering when being casual became grounds for social exile. Did Richard agree with this? Hold on, he's right here. I heard muffled conversation, and then Richard's voice boomed through. Michael, glad we're having this chat. Listen, I'm going to give it to you straight because that's what men do. This gala is important. We're talking major investors, board members, industry titans. These are people who move markets with their decisions. Emma needs to be taken seriously, and that means everything around her needs to communicate success, sophistication, and strategic thinking. And I don't communicate those things. You communicate different values. Good values don't get me wrong, but not necessarily the values that resonate in high-stakes business environments. What values do I communicate, Richard, specifically? You're approachable, friendly, you make those jokes, and you have a very laid-back approach to professional situations, which is fine for architecture, I'm sure, but in Emma's world, perception is everything. Image matters. The people you surround yourself with become part of your brand. So I'm bad for the brand. You're not bad, Michael, you're just casual, and casual doesn't play well at a $7,000 a plate event. It's $7,000 now? I thought it was $8. The point is, Richard said, annoyed, sometimes we have to prioritize our spouse's success over our own ego. That's what marriage is about. Sacrifice. Funny, I always thought marriage was about partnership. Don't be petty, Michael. It's not attractive. Neither is being uninvited to events I'm paying for, but here we are. Richard made an exasperated sound. Look, Emma is going places. Big places. She could be C-suite in 5 years if she plays this right. Do you really want to be the reason she doesn't reach her potential? And there it was. The ultimate guilt trip. The suggestion that by simply existing as myself, I was somehow holding back my wife's ascent to corporate godhood. You know what, Richard? You're absolutely right. I wouldn't want to be the reason Emma doesn't reach her potential, so I'm going to remove myself from the equation entirely. I'm going to the coast for the week while you all toast Emma's success with $1,200 wine. I'll be toasting myself with cheap beer and the knowledge that I don't have to pretend anymore. Pretend what? That being part of this family doesn't feel like a performance review I'm constantly failing. I hung up before he could respond and immediately confirmed my Cascade Bay reservation. If they wanted me gone, I'd be gone, but on my own terms, with better scenery and significantly less judgment. The drive to Cascade Bay is about 90 minutes through winding forest roads. I had the windows down playing classic rock loud enough to drown out my thoughts. I stopped at a gas station in some tiny town, grabbed overpriced beef jerky and a Red Bull, and just stood in the parking lot breathing. The air smelled like pine trees and freedom, and nothing like Emma's $200 perfume. When I rolled into Cascade Bay, the marine layer was doing that thing where it's not quite fog, but not quite clear. The cottage was even better than the photos. Tom, the host, was waiting on the porch, maybe 60 years old, deeply tanned, wearing board shorts and a faded t-shirt. You must be Michael. Welcome to paradise, or at least the budget version. Budget paradise is still paradise. Tom handed me the keys and gave me a look that was way too perceptive. You look like you just lost a wife or a surfboard. I actually laughed. Both kinda. Not lost exactly, more like temporarily misplaced by mutual agreement. One of those situations. Been there. My ex-wife told me I loved surfing more than I loved her, and I made the mistake of pausing before I answered. Took her about 3 seconds to serve me papers. Did you love surfing more? Honestly, probably. But in my defense, surfing never told me I needed to work on myself or communicate better. Waves just show up, you ride them or you don't, then they move on. Very zen, very uncomplicated. Tom showed me around. Bedroom with a comfortable bed, kitchen with everything I'd need, living room with a couch facing ridiculous windows, deck with a hot tub overlooking the ocean. Hot tub's heated, Wi-Fi password is catch-a-wave, and there's a grill if you want to pretend you're functional. Beach access down those stairs, but fair warning, it's like 140 steps. After Tom left, I stood at those windows just watching the ocean. Waves rolled in with the kind of consistency that made my marriage look like a poorly planned improv show. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could actually breathe. I spent 3 days just existing, waking up whenever, making 2 strong coffee, sitting on the deck, contemplating life while seagulls screamed at each other, walking the beach until my legs hurt. Tom stopped by with fresh crab he'd caught, said he had too much for one person. We ate it on the deck with beer, and he told me stories about his surfing days and his ex-wife. You're looking better, he observed. Less like a man in crisis, more like a man on vacation. Is there a difference? Huge difference. Crisis implies you haven't accepted the situation yet. Vacation implies you've made peace and decided to enjoy the view while everything burns down back home. Saturday arrived, the day of Emma's gala, the event that started this whole thing. I thought about it, of course. You don't just forget your spouse is at a major career event you were explicitly uninvited from. But instead of dwelling, I decided to create my own event. I drove into town around 11, hit the grocery store, bought hot dogs, hamburger buns, potato chips, a 6-pack of local IPA, and cheap beer. Also grabbed a disposable charcoal grill. Then I headed to the beach, found a spot near some tide pools, got my grill going, and proceeded to have the most aggressively mediocre cookout of my life. Hot dogs, slightly burnt on the outside, slightly cold in the middle. Chips the wind kept trying to steal. Beer at the perfect temperature. It was glorious. I watched seagulls engage in gang warfare over a single French fry some tourist kid had dropped. The level of drama these birds brought to a fried potato was genuinely impressive. Guys, I said to the seagulls, it's really not worth it. Have some dignity. They ignored me and continued their tragedy. Meanwhile, 90 miles away, Emma was probably in some venue with vaulted ceilings wearing a dress that cost more than my car payment, holding curated wine, surrounded by investors and board members and industry titans, and I had peace, a questionable hot dog, and a six-pack. Honestly, I was winning. Around 6 p.m., my phone started having a complete meltdown. It started buzzing and didn't stop. Not a few texts, but like someone calling 911 buzzing. I pulled it out and watched the screen light up. 26 missed calls in 10 minutes. Texts from Emma, her assistant Kelly, both her parents. All saying call immediately. It's urgent. Investors know everything. Tom appeared walking his dog, Captain. He took one look at my face. Oh, that's the look of someone whose vacation just got interrupted by reality. 26 missed calls, 42 texts in 10 minutes. I opened the text from Kelly first. Michael, please call ASAP. It's urgent. Investors know everything. Then another text from Emma with a screenshot. I opened it and felt my eyebrows climb. It was a budget spreadsheet for the gala. Itemized expenses, vendor costs, projected ROI. But there highlighted in yellow was line item 47. Reputation management, spouse, Michael Carter, $0. Excluded from guest list to maintain brand integrity and investor confidence. I read it 3 times. They put me in a spreadsheet as a line item under reputation management with a note I'd been excluded for brand integrity. And apparently the investors had seen this. Oh, I said out loud and started laughing. I'd been quantified, itemized, and filed under corporate risk management. You okay, man? Tom asked. They made me a spreadsheet entry. Line item 47. Reputation risk spouse. That's dystopian. My phone started ringing. Emma, I answered. Hello, Emma. I hear the party's going well. Going well? Her voice came through at a pitch that could shatter glass. Going well? Michael, everything is destroyed. Everything. My career, the company, my reputation, all of it gone. I took another bite of my hot dog. That's crazy. Want to start from the beginning? You're on vacation. Michael, I've been calling for hours. Where are you? Cascade Bay. Remember I told you I was going after you uninvited me? I'm having a beach cookout. The hot dogs are mediocre, but the view is spectacular. I could hear her breathing heavily, trying to compose herself. Background voices, someone crying, aggressive arguing. An intern named Jessica, Emma finally said, voice shaking. She's 22, just graduated. This was her first major event role. She was supposed to send the investors the quarterly projections spreadsheet showing revenue growth, but she didn't send that one. She sent the event budget spreadsheet instead. The internal one with all the line items, including the reputation management section. Ah, line item 47, silence. You saw it. Kelly sent me a screenshot. Very thoughtful, really puts things in perspective. I always wondered my value to this relationship. Now I know, negative value. I'm costing you brand integrity points. Michael, this isn't funny. Oh, Emma, it's a little funny. You put your husband in a spreadsheet under reputation risk. That's objectively hilarious. The investors saw it, all of them. During cocktail hour, Jessica sent it to the entire investor distribution list. 23 people, 23 investors, board members, and potential partners all received a spreadsheet that explicitly stated my husband was excluded because he was bad for brand image. I whistled low. That's rough. How'd they take it? How do you think? Michael, these are people who invest millions based on leadership quality and company culture. And what did they see that I was so ashamed of my own husband, I budgeted his exclusion like it was a business expense. I mean, you did do that, though. That's what happened. I heard something being thrown. Michael, listen. Marcus Chen pulled his funding immediately. Just stood up during the presentation, said, I don't invest in companies with leaders who treat people like line items, and walked out. $3 million gone. The Fitzgerald Group followed him, then Cascade Capital. Half our major investors pulled out within an hour. The other half stayed, but only to watch the drama. Richard told me one of them was literally eating popcorn. Did the popcorn come from the caterer? If so, that's $8,000 well spent. This is not a joke. The company stock crashed. We're down 47%. Investors are calling for my resignation. The board is having an emergency meeting tomorrow. Lumina might not survive this. I sat with that, watching a wave crash. That's unfortunate. Unfortunate? Michael, my entire career is over. Everything I've worked for, everything I've built, gone because some idiot intern hit send on the wrong email. No, I corrected. Not quite. Your career is over because you put your husband in a spreadsheet as a reputation liability. The intern just made sure people found out. There's a difference. More background noise. You could help me fix this. You could release a statement saying you weren't bothered, that it was a mutual decision, that the spreadsheet was just internal shorthand. You want me to lie? I want you to help me save my career. By lying and making it seem like being quantified as a corporate liability is something I was cool with, it would only take one statement, one interview. I stood up, started walking toward the water. The sun was setting. Emma, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to really hear it. I'm not angry. I'm not even hurt anymore. Mostly I'm just relaxed, which is probably scarier for you than if I was screaming. Because if I was angry, you could manage that. But I'm not angry. I'm just done. Done. Done performing. Done trying to be the right kind of husband for your career trajectory. Done pretending it's normal to be excluded from events I'm paying for. Done being a line item in someone else's spreadsheet. Michael, here's the thing, Emma. That intern didn't destroy your career. You did. You destroyed it when you decided your husband was a liability instead of a partner. When you let your parents convince you I wasn't good enough. When you started valuing perception over reality, image over integrity, and career advancement over the actual human you married. That's not fair. And you know what's wild? I hope you figure it out. I hope you learn from this. I hope 10 years from now you realize climbing the corporate ladder isn't worth it if you have to step on everyone who loves you. But right now I'm halfway through a mediocre hot dog on a beautiful beach and I've never felt more at peace. Michael, I have to go, Emma. Good luck with the board meeting tomorrow. I hung up and turned my phone completely off. Tom walked over. That sounded intense. Her company's imploding because someone exposed she was ashamed of me. Investors fled, stock crashed, career potentially over. How do you feel about that? I thought about it. Hungry. I'm going to go get clam chowder. Want to come? I made it 45 minutes before my phone, which I'd turned back on, started round 2. We were at a dive bar called the Driftwood Tavern. We'd ordered chowder and fish and chips when Margaret's name lit up my screen. I stepped outside and answered. Hello, Margaret. Michael, thank goodness. I've been trying to reach you for hours. I was on the beach having hot dogs, the usual activities for someone categorized as a reputation liability. We need to talk about tonight, about this situation. Situation? I would have gone with spectacular implosion of corporate hubris. Michael, please. Emma needs your help. The family needs your help. Oh, now I'm part of the family again. Last week I was too casual. But now that everything's on fire, suddenly I'm back on the roster. You're being petty, dear. You know what's petty, Margaret? Putting your son-in-law in a spreadsheet as a line item under reputation risk. I'm just operating at the level you all established. Her voice shifted, going cold. Fine, let me be honest. If you don't help Emma fix this, you're going to destroy everything she's worked for, everything our family has built. Is that really what you want? See, that's interesting because I'm pretty sure Emma destroyed things herself. I didn't make that spreadsheet. I didn't exclude myself, I just existed. And apparently that was too much. Marriage is about sacrifice, Michael. You're right. And I've been sacrificing for years. I sacrificed my pride at your family dinners. I sacrificed my feelings every time Emma chose work over us. I sacrificed my dignity when I got uninvited to an event I was paying for. But sacrifice is supposed to go both ways, and I'm fresh out. I could hear Richard's voice. Then he got on. Michael, stop being childish. This is serious. Emma made a mistake, yes, but you need to step up and help her fix it. That's what husbands do. Husbands also get invited to their wives' work parties, Richard. One event. You're going to let one event destroy your marriage and your wife's career. I'm not destroying anything. I'm declining to participate in cleanup of a mess I didn't make. Blame Emma for making the spreadsheet. Blame the intern for sending it. Blame yourselves for spending years making me feel like I wasn't good enough. But don't blame me for finally having enough self-respect to walk away. You're being selfish. Yeah, probably. Turns out being selfish feels pretty good after years of being everyone's emotional support system while getting nothing in return. I hung up and turned my phone off again. Emma called one more time later that night. Her voice came through shaky, tearful, stripped of corporate polish. They're blaming me for everything. The board, the investors, even the other executives. They're saying I showed catastrophic judgment. They want me to resign. That sucks. I mean it. You have to tell them you're not angry. You have to tell them this was blown out of proportion. But I am angry, Emma. You said you weren't. You said you were relaxed. I'm not angry. There's a difference. Angry implies I want to fight. I'm just done. I'm at peace with this, and that's probably scarier for you. Silence. What does that mean? It means I'm not coming to save you. I'm not making statements or doing interviews. You made choices, Emma. You chose your career over our relationship. You chose your parents' approval over my feelings. You chose brand image over basic decency. And now you get to live with those choices. I never thought you'd actually leave. I haven't left. I'm just on vacation. There's a difference. Is there? I don't know yet, but I know I'm not rushing back to fix things. I know I'm not going to lie for you. And I know for the first time in years, I feel like I can actually breathe. You used to laugh at all my jokes, even the bad ones. Yeah, well, you used to think I was worth inviting to parties. Michael, I've got to go, Emma. Take care of yourself. Figure out who you want to be when all the corporate BS is stripped away. Maybe we can talk then. I stayed the full week. Tom and his dog became my therapy team. When I finally drove home, I didn't know what to expect. I found Emma on our couch in actual college sweatpants, no makeup, eyes swollen. The living room looked like a depression nest. You came back, she said. I live here, technically. We talked, really talked. She apologized, said she'd ruined everything because she let pride turn her into someone she didn't recognize. Said her parents wanted to sue everyone, but she was just tired of performing. I told her we needed boundaries if we were going to figure this out, where I'm not her emotional support system while also being her reputation liability, where her parents don't get opinions about my worth, where if we're married, we're actually partners. She agreed, said she could do honest. That was 6 months ago. Lumina Beauty got liquidated. Emma's doing therapy twice a week. We're not back together. Probably never will be. We had coffee once and she said, I looked happy. I am happy. I started my own architecture firm and clients actually respect me. We're civil now. Sometimes that's the best ending you get. I'm in my own place making my own breakfast, living my own life. Portland's still gray and rainy, but it's mine now. Completely mine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just peace. And knowing your worth isn't defined by a spreadsheet someone else made.